everybody. Welcome to our new episode of Getting Deep with a PhD and JD. And I'm Kimmie. I am the JD of our duo. I currently work with a continuing education company providing continuing education for lawyers and accountants as well. And I also own my own estate planning practice. So that's me.
I am Nicki. I am the PhD of this duo, and I am a professor in an urban university, and I teach research in human behavior.
So you may be wondering what this podcast is about. And it is specifically a spirited and analytical discussion about relevant news topics that are not a part of your daily timeline. So not only will you learn something new, you'll be inspired to action.
So, Kimmie.
Yes.
Let's start with a question. So, what is your relationship to hair? And I want you to think about your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were a child, what was your relationship to your hair?
It's funny because there are a lot of things that I don't remember as a really small child. But one of the things that I do remember is my relationship to my hair. That's how important it was. And the memory, there's a lot of memories that stand out about my hair. One of the memories that stands out is I remember as a child really wanting my hair to be the texture and to be the texture and have the shininess and the versatility of like basically a mixed person.
Yes.
Like, that's what I wanted. And I remember as a young child questioning, like, why do I have this kind of hair? Like, why can't I have the other kind of hair? And I remember just being very ashamed of my hair in this sort of state because my mom would press my hair with the hot comb on the stove.
On the stove,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And I remember when I would get my hair pressed, I just felt really beautiful once my hair was pressed. And I think a lot of us can identify with, okay, once you get your hair pressed, especially in the summertime, when you go outside and play and you come back, or if you get caught in the rain. I remember I had gotten caught. I don't know if it was the rain or it was just so hot outside and my hair went back. That's what we used to call it.
Yes.
Back.
Yep. Going back. Yep.
And my hair went back while I was at school and I was so embarrassed. Like I was so embarrassed, so ashamed. I felt like it was ugly and I just couldn't wait to get home and kind of just hide under the covers because of my hair had reverted to this, to this state. So, and then going through the process of getting your hair pressed and the trauma, because it's like you had to be real still.
Still, it was hot.
Especially around here. And my mom would be like, be still, Kim. And girl, when I tell you, my mom was good at doing our hair now. When I tell you, she would get that comb on these little hairs back here. And I would just be like, oh my God, I'm going to get burned.
Well, they used to get paid to do hair when they were growing up. That's why she probably, yes.
I didn't know that. I think
they did hair. They did neighborhood hair and they, that was really important to them.
I didn't know that. And then this is the other memory. And then you can, and then I remember the other style. Oh, two more memories. This style, because it's so much, right? So I remember when my mom would put my hair in beads.
Oh yeah,
that was my favorite style.
The beads, because
yes. You know what I could do? I could go like this.
Yes.
And then this is the other thing. Wonder Woman was like one of my favorite superheroes. And I used to run around the house. I used to put my nightgown on my head, and that was my hair. And I used to run around the house, and I'd be like, Wonder
Wonder
Woman. And I was
Woman.
flick my nightgown hair, girl. And so that's what it was all about. It really was. So those are the main memories. What about you?
So I think the biggest memory for me was when my mother finally said that I could get my hair relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal for me. And I remember going to school right before I was going to get my hair relaxed. And I'm almost embarrassed to say this right now, but I definitely remember I went to my friends and I said, my mother finally said that I can get my hair relaxed. I'm going to have shiny, beautiful hair like the white girls. I'm going to have shiny, beautiful hair like the white girls.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling like I'm finally going to be beautiful because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
growing up,
Mm-hmm.
having darker skin,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I didn't necessarily feel beautiful. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel beautiful. And so having my mom finally tell me you can have a relaxer, and you know, my mother really did not want me to get a relaxer.
Mine didn't either.
She was just kind of put, you know, it was like, oh no, you don't need to do that, because my mother would press my hair, and just like your mom,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like getting it really close, and my mom always would you know, when she would do my hair, the other memory I have is that there were certain things that I didn't want to do because I didn't want my hair to go back.
Mm-hmm.
So like I did a lot of dancing, you know, I danced,
Mm-hmm.
we had ballet and everything. And I just remember I'd go to practice and I'd like brush my hair so that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it'd be really straight.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would come back, come home, I'd have sweated and it was like, oh, mom, you know. So I
Mm-hmm.
remember that. And I do remember the beads.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I loved the beads because the beads, you could see the length of my
Mm-hmm.
hair,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because when you didn't have it straightened, or you didn't have the something heavy on it, then you couldn't tell how long it
Yep.
was.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And it
when I
wouldn't
had the
move.
beads, and it wouldn't move, and I remember having the beads and I just leaned back and the beads would hit me in the back, like in the back, and I
Uh-huh.
was just like,
Yeah.
ah,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah. The fact that you can feel it on your back. Yep.
And it actually changed the way that I reacted to folks when I had the beads on, because it was kind of like I could, you know, shake my head and,
Mm-hmm.
ah, you know, it was almost like I felt I had some drama associated with me
Mm-hmm.
because of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it it just shows me that, and I didn't realize it at the time, just how much hair was just so
Mm-hmm.
important and so critical
Very critical.
to who I was as a child,
Your
and
self-esteem.
my self-esteem, and how I didn't grow up believing that my hair was beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't grow up believing that I was a beautiful little girl. I
Right.
just grew up thinking, you know,
Yeah.
I'm just Nikki. I'm just,
And
you know, whatever.
and we love our families, and the people that we're around. They didn't help a lot of
Yeah.
times. You know.
Well, and think about when I was in school, the people that were seen as pretty,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the people that everybody wanted to be around, they
Mm-hmm.
were lighter
Yep.
skinned. They had hair that was more, quote, mixed or good
The
hair,
proximity. The
the
proximity.
proximity to whiteness,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And they also they also knew that they were really cute as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely
You
knew that.
know, they knew that there was something very attractive
Mm-hmm.
about them. And so, and looking back, it as a child, I mean, I think we were very fortunate in the sense that our mothers did not say, okay, little 2-year-old, let's relax your hair,
Oh yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
little 2-year-old, let's do all
Or
of these
extensions.
braids,
Because that's one
or
thing I will say.
extensions.
My mom definitely did not want me to get a perm. I had to beg and plead. It was like an act of
Yes, me
Congress
too. Me
to get a
too.
perm. She did not want me to have it. And she didn't believe in like hair weaves and stuff. Because
Yeah.
Lisa, my sister, she's 10 years older. And so I remember her and my mom butting heads about her getting a weave when weave started to first come out. My mom was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, you don't need that mess in your hair. So she at least didn't encourage, the perm and the weaves and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we definitely, she definitely was like, in order to be presentable and to go out into the world, you
Yeah.
had to have your hair straightened.
Right. And growing up, you saw it was almost in stages. So the little girls, we grew up, and then all of a sudden you started seeing people getting perms,
Mhm.
getting relaxers. And we didn't call them relaxers, we called them
Perm,
perms.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was one of the last ones to
Mm-hmm.
get my hair relaxed. And
Mm-hmm.
so I felt like that made me an outsider even
Mm-hmm.
more,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, not only were they getting their hair relaxed, but they were getting like their hair cut and styled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've really thought a lot about little girls growing up, because we could talk all day about gendering and about living in a gendered society where there are things for girls and things for boys. We could talk a lot about that. But
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about hair,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I didn't, if I wasn't so self-conscious about my hair, quote, going back, I wonder if I would have been more adventurous about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and don't get me wrong, I mean, we had a pool in my backyard, so
Mm-hmm.
I was swimming all the
All the
time.
time. Yeah, you did.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like,
You didn't
well,
fall victim to that stereotype.
I did not. I am a swimmer. I love being in the pool. I love water. So but I knew in the summer that I was just relegated to, okay, well, I'm just not going to be not pretty in the summer, because my hair is just
It's
going to always, it's not going to be straightened in the summer because I love swimming,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you
So that was interesting that you were able to have the wherewithal to say that your hair wasn't that important, where you were restricting yourself from something that you really love to do, though. Because a lot of us, especially as young Black girls, we would, like, a lot of us
Yeah.
would not do certain things because of the impact of hair. And this is one of the interesting things that I wanted to say too, about what I remember about being a child is, and I told you that, I wanted hair like a mixed race person, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, and and I, when we talk about being Black children, it's either related to skin color or hair. And for me, being a brown girl, actually, I thought I was dark skinned as a child as well. And then I was, because I was in the sun all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I didn't really have issue with skin color, but I knew that skin color was associated with the kind of hair that you had. So I wouldn't have an issue. Like, if I just was able to have the curly hair, I really wouldn't have, had this desire to have lighter skin. Like, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily attracted to that, interestingly enough. It
Right.
was all about the hair texture.
The hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was all about the hair texture.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that when I think about the products that were available back then, our parents, like, our moms did the best that they could with what was available. Like the grease, and it's so funny because my white friends would always wonder, you put like bacon fat in your hair? I mean, they were always thinking the grease was the grease that you cook with. Yeah. And so there were a lot of
my mom used
misconceptions. Yeah, my mom used Vaseline too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the swimming thing, because I think there's something really interesting. I used to swim all the time because we had a pool in my backyard. And having the pool in the backyard made my brother and I popular in that sense, because the kids wanted to come over and swim with us. So there was an incentive for me to swim, because not only was I doing something I loved, but it really made me more popular. And so there was some power associated with having the pool. Now, if I didn't have a pool in my backyard, and I had to go somewhere else to swim,
Mm-hmm.
would I have
You've
been
done.
so open? Would I
Mhm.
have done it,
Yeah.
Because I think there were some added benefits to having the pool in the backyard.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show how important hair is and how impressionable it is. And so this topic, we decided to talk about this topic because there has been, there's always been a lot of talk about black hair, right? But
Mm.
recently there's been talk of the impact and effects that perms have on your health. And,
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to talk about how children are being, even to this day, in some ways, are still being impressioned by their hair not being good enough. Because
Right.
we see, like you and I said, even back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, when we,
Ooh, aging us,
girl,
aging us.
oh, we look good. That's
Generation X.
yes,
Woohoo!
Generation X. We was coming up in the 80s and the 90s. And the fact that we were, you know we were impressioned to um the fact that our hair just wasn't good enough,
Mm-hmm.
that we always had to do something extra to make it presentable. And, even with the creation of the hair typing system by a
Yeah.
black man who
Right.
basically said, for women who have hair type like ours, that the only thing we can do is perm it.
Yeah. That's the only type. I think the quote was that that's the only type that he encourages getting a chemical
Mm-hmm.
straightening to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now we're learning that those chemical straighteners are dangerous to our health,
Yeah.
and can
Yeah.
cause, and we'll go into that in another video or episode.
Yes. We'll talk a little bit.
Yeah.
We because this topic is so big. It can't just be one
Mm-hmm.
top. It can't just be one
Mm-hmm.
episode. So we'll talk about it more.
Mm-hmm.
I think starting by talking about childhood and
Where
talking
it began.
about little black girls, yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
is really important. And I think that we also have to consider that there's still a lot of hair discrimination out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so wonderful that I can look out and I see more people wearing their hair naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say the hair discrimination, there's texturism,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Even
Mm-hmm.
in the black hair community,
Absolutely.
there's still
Yeah.
texturism. And so we still have to remember that even though we see a lot more people wearing natural hair and a lot of young girls,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of young girls.
Mm-hmm.
The university where I work, I walk around and I just see all of these beautiful black faces with natural hair
Mm-hmm.
and just all over the place. And
And that's good. And
I think it's wonderful.
especially when we grew up, right? And that, there was this constant barrage of images of what makes a
Mm-hmm.
woman beautiful. Is they're in the commercial and they're doing this, or
Ah,
they're in the shower washing
and
their
they're
hair like
washing
there.
their hair and
And they can just go
yeah.
out and after that. And so it's the constant reminders, the constant imagery that taught us as young children that our hair isn't good enough. And so,
And
mhm,
even when they started having darker skinned models and darker skinned folks
mhm,
on commercials and everything, you still saw that they still had that the approximating
yes,
whiteness, like their features
mhm,
as well as
yeah,
their even if they were darker
yep,
skinned, their hair was
mhm,
still
mhm,
straightened or
still,
chemically relaxed,
mhm,
or they had a weave or a wig
mhm,
or something. It wasn't their natural
wasn't,
texture of their
yeah,
hair. Yeah. So even then, it's like, oh, the first black model. Yes. And I even read something about Naomi Campbell
mhm,
and how, just being a model and all the modeling that she did, how her hair, she had traction
mhm. She
alopecia
ruined her hair, yeah,
because, yeah,
mhm,
because of all of the weaves that she had to wear in order to be seen as beautiful.
And to be accepted. So
Yeah.
we can talk about this, and we'll get into the weeds, but and like I said, in later episodes. So let's sort of move to our call to action, because as we've said, we not only want to be to sort of provide information or provide conversation about a particular topic. We want to
Hmm.
move the community forward, and call to
Action.
action segment. So let's sort of move to our call to action, because as we've said, we not only want to be to sort of provide information or provide conversation about a particular topic. We want to move the community forward, and
Action.
call to action segment. And so, the call to action, I think, is real simple, and that is to encourage especially your babies, your daughters, from when they're babies up until they're old enough to make certain decisions, not based on inferiority, but rather on choice or
Yeah.
diversity, fun.
Yeah.
They want to just switch it up because that's what we can do. We do set the trends, we set style trends, beauty trends. Even though we're told that we're not beautiful, we still set the trends, which is
Right.
amazing. So anyway, so from my perspective, the call to action is, when your babies are babies and they're still developing, teach them that their hair is good enough. And the way that you do that is to allow them to wear their hair. And
Yeah.
if when they're in the bath and they get their hair wet, don't freak out. Uh,
Right.
Learn.
Right.
There are lots of platforms now that teach you how to care for your child's hair. And that's the other thing. Back in the day, there just wasn't research. There wasn't,
Right.
good
There wasn't a
information.
whole community that you could easily access.
Right. To
Yeah.
teach you
Yeah.
how to manage your tightly curled hair. So the call to action is to seek out those resources. Now stylists are getting on board. They have the education and training to help properly educate you on how to manage your hair. And so that would be my call to action, is to seek out that information and allow your girl children to wear their natural hair.
Yeah. Yeah. And along with that, my call to action is to model the behaviors
Mm.
that you would want your children, in particular your girl children, to model. For example, um, if you are a person who's always talking about how your hair is nappy, or you're using that type of language, or you're making it seem like you can't go anywhere until you take 5 hours to do things to your hair,
Mm-hmm.
then young folk, listen to me sound like I'm aging myself. Young folk, younger kids, young children see this,
Mm-hmm.
and these things. What we do is we give all of these messages. Children learn from us. There's so many messages that we have. We don't even need to open our mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way we react when we see certain things,
Mm-hmm.
or the things that we do. So that's my call to action, is just model what you see. And if you don't love your hair, if you don't love your natural hair, this is an opportunity for you to really start to figure out, and to actually get maybe going to a natural hair community, being more involved,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even going to someone like a counselor or a therapist
Mm-hmm.
to really talk about self-esteem and what it means if you don't love something that comes out of your body naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because we are never too old to really take the time to become more insightful about ourselves.
Absolutely. And if you seek out um, communities like on Facebook, where women are celebrating what naturally grows out of their scalp, that helps as well, and that helps you
Yeah.
model behavior that you want your daughters to have. You want them to have that self-esteem. So we'll add some links, to the bio for this episode, where you can get some information, take a look at certain communities that encourage natural hair and encourage the love for natural hair, and just
Mm-hmm.
understanding this, and accepting what your hair does. Like, I found
Yeah.
a natural hair community that resonates with me, and one of the things that they promote is, listen, a lot of us just haven't even felt what our natural hair is supposed to feel like. And it's about learning to accept that this is what your natural hair feels like,
Yeah.
and you should be and that should be good for you. So
Right.
those are,
Right.
yeah, so those are definite calls to action. So
So the thing that I absolutely love is I love the fact that we talked about there's so many natural hair communities out there, but I love the fact that there are so many young girls that are natural.
mhm,
Um, and like I said, on my college campus, it is more rare. Well, it's yeah, it's rarer for me to see someone with a relaxer, with
mhm,
relaxed hair. I mean, that just, I mean, and it just, when I listen into what students are talking about, and they're talking about their hair, um, people are really talking about exploring braids and twists and all of these different things. But, and the interesting thing is, like, when I think about the hair places,
mhm,
um, there are a lot more natural hair places that will market.
mhm,
We do natural hair. We
yeah,
specialize in natural hair that are around the
yeah,
university. So it's just very interesting to me. So that's something that I just find so refreshing. I think it's wonderful,
mhm,
and that people are really celebrating, and they're really reclaiming
mhm,
what has always been there,
mhm. Reclaiming
and
the
that's just
beauty.
been wonderful. So I think that's just fabulous.
Yeah, I think that a lot of mothers in our generation intentionally decided to raise their daughters differently. And I think it's
Yeah.
because of the trauma that we went through growing up, constantly fighting against what naturally grows out of our hair, out of our scalps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what we're seeing, and I find it very refreshing, the same as you, that there are some 20-something-year-olds out here who have never had a perm in their life,
Absolutely.
and it's almost something foreign to them. Like, this is my hair. I'm like, okay, girl,
Like, what? Like, you want me to put what in my hair?
okay, girl, do
And I
it.
can't scratch my hair before, and it
Right.
might burn, and
Yes.
what?
Craziness. And they know nothing
Yeah.
about it. And I think it's fabulous.
I think it's fabulous too.
And just to see the versatility, there are, there are a lot more resources. That's the good thing going on now. Lots of more resources. And this is something that we're going to get into in yet another episode as well. Even though there are still certain industries where the standard of beauty is very white standards of beauty, like, public entertainment and things like that.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's slowly, because if you remember, I think there was this one news anchor, a black woman who was wearing her natural hair, and it was like a
Yes,
big deal. So
it was a big deal.
mhm.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that, industries like that are, that are in the entertainment field, where those kinds of standards are still very rigid. They're kind of slowly, you're starting to see it to
Hmm.
slowly change, the way, regular folks have started to embrace their natural hair.
Yeah.
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 So that's good.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah. Well, I look forward to exploring
mm-hmm.
more about hair as
Yes.
we think about some additional topics
Mm-hmm.
that are hair related,
Mm-hmm.
and to really talk about it. Like I said, it's a big top, really
It
big
is. There,
and very personal to
it is.
folks.
It's very, and that's why, what is it? It's we're at 30 minutes and it doesn't feel like it because we can just go, as I was, as you're talking and as I'm talking, I'm thinking of even more stories from my childhood that just really relates to hair and how important, how prevalent it is in our
Yeah.
lives. So, yeah, so it's good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's it for our second episode of
Second
Getting
episode.
Deep with a
Yay.
PhD and JD.
And a GD. Yep.
So until next time, y'all take care.
Have a fabulous
All
time.
right.
And make sure you
Like and
like
subscribe.
us. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. And also let us know if there are topics that you would like for us to explore.
Mhm.
Because we definitely love feedback and love, to think about some additional topics that you're interested
Yeah,
in.
absolutely.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.